This episode of Capes and Lunatics is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. Get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
Avast me hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I am your captain, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is me first mate and skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Welcome, Mozz. All right, Mozz. Tonight's episode, Agent Carter, Season 2, Episode 6. When Peggy realizes she cannot save Wilkes on her own, she turns to her most unexpected adversary for help, while Whitney makes a move to control the deadly Zero Matter. And director again is Craig Zisick. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, of course, have our Marvel created by, or based on Marvel Comics by. Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely get our created bys. Eric Pearson gets our written bys. This one has not just one, but two executive story editors, Sue Chung and Eric Pearson. She was working so hard, they had to have Eric Pearson aid her. But of course, that means that now our hardest working woman in show business is Lindsay Allen as our story editor. All right. So at the end of last episode, Dr. Wilkes basically fades away, disappears, falls out of reality, literally. Because as we come into this episode, we see him in sort of this dark, upside-down universe, a shadow place, which I find very fascinating. Zero Matter is very related to dark energy, which is arguably in the comic books related to the Dark Dimension, where Dormammu is from. And, it's an interesting thing when we're making this shadow universe for our characters to be interacting with. And that is, that is kind of interesting, especially because at this time we still did not know what was going to be happening with stuff like Doctor Strange or any of the other things that will be
part of the cinematic universe.
Yeah, part of the cinematic universe. It was a very interesting storyline that we were being given visually with this, because we're giving this thing, and then
because it relates to something in the central universe, or because it specifically doesn't, or seems at odds with something else that was in.
No. What I guess to me, what it is, and that's the thing, is like for me, when this stuff all came out, I mean, it's all about hunting down the Easter eggs and what is this, and we all know that Zero, because that, and it's one of these weird things where they're calling Zero Matter, but all of those, the kids at home who are big Marvel fans knew that this was sort of somehow dark energy, dark matter, or, it was this thing that exists that is presented in the Marvel Universe in a certain way. And so we're expecting it to meet those criteria. And I don't think it's that different when we do get to Doctor Strange and the Dark Dimension of Dormammu, especially if we see this as the transitional place and in its own way as sort of like the upside down. Because I do think that like when we come to something like Stranger Things, that idea of the upside down, that mirror universe that exists, and that leads to something far darker, deeper within it. that is an interesting concept. But
it's also interesting that somehow it shares something with this world, because when he's in that world, it's just a different visual output being put out by the same world. It seems like that you're able to perceive because you're in a different perspective.
Yeah,
you're looking at it from a different sort of outlook. So it's but it does share something with our world. Like when he goes into that place, he doesn't go into a different environment. It's the same environment. It's just shining differently.
Well, except there's also a big black gaping hole.
Right.
And that's the same big black gaping hole we saw earlier when he's working on the math equations, and, the doorway to the dark dimension first opens up for him. It's this idea of accessing that dark dimension and that dark energy and dark power that is just outside his reach, But, he comes back and he's very depressed because, of course, obviously he is fading away. And they come up with this idea of building the containment unit for himself.
Well, she comes up with the idea.
Well, yeah. Well,
he's pretty forlorn.
Yeah, he's forlorn. But it gives him something to work on. Now, I mean, honestly, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, great, I could live for the rest of my life in a box. But we're not gonna address that right now. Right now, we're just gonna try and solve the problem.
Right. Let's keep you here first, and then we'll worry about getting you back. One step at a time, Doctor.
Yes, and they come up with the idea that, oh, well, we will have we need to get some more zero matter, and the only source of that is Whitney Frost herself. And they realize that, oh, she'll be at the ball, but they also realize, and this is kind of what bugged me, is that they have to sort of set up this scene because they need to get to, the horrible idea, which is that after they just pulled this atomic job, suddenly Rose's aunt gets sick. Or her mom gets sick or something, and she has to leave. And, Samberly isn't up. Basically, just after getting introduced to our kick butt Rose in the last episode, they immediately write her out on a specious, for what seems like a kind of a ridiculous reason. I mean, granted, yes, people's mothers get sick and they have to fly across the country for whatever reason. But it seemed a little too ultra convenient to me.
I think maybe it was one of those things where they wanted to see how the character would play with the audience. If they liked her, they could, move her to the back burner for a possible surprise introduction later. So they're just building these, core of the bullpen that they can draw on at any time. Maybe that was one of, the thoughts there. Hey, let's see if people like her, and if they do, we can bring her back next season and everybody will love it.
Yeah, and to be fair, what they wanted to do is what they've been teasing this whole season so far. And honestly, it is kind of annoying that we had so many seasons without our beloved Dottie Underwood. And we finally get her back because the horrible idea that Peggy has is, well, we need someone who can, hold her own against Whitney Frost, who's able to do this, that, or the other, and says, well, there is one woman who could do it. Because they do need someone to be Jarvis's date, who is not going to be spotted as an agent, yes. So they get Dottie Underwood.
I was so excited because I want them two to be friends so bad.
Yeah.
You already see a measure of deep respect for each other and kinship in forged in the thick of battle. So they have a deep respect for, and if they could just be friends, man, they would be unstoppable together. But can't see eye to eye ideologically.
Yeah, and it's that. I mean, that and Dottie Underwood's evil. It's.
Well, yeah, but no. I mean, I guess at least that's not the way she's playing it. She's playing it like, okay, this country is this. She feels like she still has a moral standing, or that what she's doing is righteous. It's not.
Yeah.
So from her perspective, it's like I can see like she can not have respect for the team that she's on, but have respect for the player. Kind of like, I hate the Patriots. I hate everything about them. I hate Bill Belichick. But Tom Brady's amazing. How can you hate on Tom Brady? It's that kind of thing.
I know. I understand what you're saying, but I just think of young Anakin telling Obi-Wan, from my perspective, the Jedi are evil. It's like, well, maybe, and it's sort of one of these things where it's like, Anakin's not wrong. The Jedi are evil, but the Sith are somehow more evil.
Right.
And it's like, just because we're evil doesn't mean you aren't super evil. That's sort of it is the reality of the situation at the end of the day. But they do, and it's a cute little cat and mouse they have because, of course, Peggy comes in under a different name, and of course, Dottie immediately knows, okay, this is not on the record. This is what exactly is going on here, and she basically gives her a means to escape, which is essentially, a very high-powered magnet to open the door from the inside. And, tells her no killing and all that kind of stuff. And for what it's worth, it is an interesting aspect that, Dottie doesn't just take this chance to run. That she instead absolutely just as Peggy expected, just says, well, because you want to know why it is I want to break you out. And she does point out that this does have to do with the Arena Club. So, although, again, it's one of these things where you never really find out, as far as I recall, why she was interested in the Arena Club, except for the fact that obviously they were literally the evil capitalists destroying the working class,
And they're sort of saying as much about the council to us, the viewer, as well, that the council is evil. So I thought that was going to be a point of bonding for the two of them. Like, yeah, okay, you know what? The things you don't like about our government, hey, we don't like either. And maybe in this one issue we're aligned, so let's work together. But they didn't play that angle, interestingly enough.
Yeah. Actually, what I realized, what's interesting is, of course, Dottie gets that first pin in New York, which actually means that this is just one of the arena clubs.
Ooh.
And there may even be other members of the council who, are also high-ranking, but just are not in this circle. So, although this does seem to be like a very central command circle, they actually even make the point that, one of the guy's newspapers, that he just has the newspapers west of the Mississippi. Whereas, of course, there are a lot more newspapers and, people influenced by the media east of the Mississippi. So even then, it is, there are others. But in this case, she gets Dottie to cooperate, and they're basically, and it's basically, okay, so here's what you're going to do. And it is one of these things where they're not going to give her all the details. Although at the same time, I think that's maybe even a mistake too, just because, oh yeah, by the way, she has superpowers and she can make tendrils devour you if she lays a hand on you. You may want to prepare her for that without going into too much detail. But then again, I guess they don't want her to just take the blood and say, oh yes, this is the blood of someone with tendrils. Right. Maybe we can do something with that.
Yeah, I bet my handlers would rethink whether or not they want to claim me once they hear about what I have to offer.
Exactly. Although, that's always that interesting question is, we don't know if Dottie has handlers. That is one of the weirdest things with Dottie. We don't know if she has masters in Moscow or if she is literally just always a rogue agent. I mean, I guess we did see that she did connect with Faustus in the last season. So she was clearly part of a mission. Mm-hmm. But since that mission, we don't know if she's been completely cut loose.
Well, I mean, it seems like when Peggy says to her, hey, the Soviets haven't sent anybody to claim you, she's like, yeah, that's the way this works. If you get caught, you get disavowed. That's the oath I took, and that's the responsibility I took on when I decided to, or she didn't decide, but when it was conditioned and when she eventually bought in, that was the understanding. So it's not out of the ordinary. It doesn't move me to tell me that my government is doing exactly what I knew they were going to do. So from that respect, it's like, yeah, they have cut ties. And, at this point, she also understands that if she leaves and they get wind that she's left, that they are going to be hunting her because they're going to just assume, even without any evidence, because it's the safest assumption to make, is that she has spilt the beans on something. And they'll be coming out to get her. And this is her insurance policy to say, hey, wait a second, I am not a used-up utility. I still have some worth. Here's what I have to offer. And this is her way back into the fold of the only family she's known.
Yeah. It's fascinating how the dynamic does play between Peggy and Dottie, but
she's such a good actress too. The way she played, how excited she was, but how supremely in control she is in every situation. Even when Jarvis is doing his best Mr. Bean impression and chiding her and yelling at her to fall in line, she plays the part, never takes it offensive, because she knows she's the one that's actually in control.
Well, of course she is. Yeah. And, and of course immediately, once there, they tell her, okay, this is the necklace, this is this, and this is the tracker. And immediately she takes it off and goes rogue on her own, but still completes the mission, interestingly enough. We also have in this episode, we find out that Chadwick has basically, after his clandestine phone call in the last episode, informs Whitney that, oh no, I understand, baby, we're going to the top, and I told them they had to see you, that this was important, and so they are going to see you. You're going to get your audience with the council. And
one thing I don't know if I'm impressed by or if I'm confused by. The level of confidence that he displayed in speaking with Wendy, right? What am I?
No,
Whitney.
Whitney.
Like, he plays the part of the doting husband or someone who believes in her so well. And part of me thinks, okay, yes, he's a politician. He's used to playing the part. But then again, he's also a weasel. So he's got to be completely so terrified of her that I'm surprised he was able to muster the gumption that it would take to pull this off and have her buy it, especially as sort of short-sighted and narrow-minded as she is, to focus on everything as a possible threat. I'm surprised that he was able to convince her that he was on the up and up.
I think he's very well versed at lying.
Right.
And for what it's worth, we know that he's had mistresses, he's had the whole panoply, and she has seen through it in the past, but he's always presented himself the way he has. And I think essentially what it is he decided to stop acting like he was afraid, because I think that was, which he was very honestly, but then he realizes that, she's going to know what's up, so I have to lay it on. And I think because it's what she wants to hear, she's not going to double think it. She's not going to say, wait a minute, this is what I wanted, but last time you said you weren't going to do this. And, so, and he, and he goes, well, I thought about it and I realized that you're who I want to be with, and this is the thing we're going to do. Something that, again, I got to say, Hugh Jones definitely reiterates that same kind of thought process later on this episode. But we do get to the party, and of course, Thompson's there, Kurtwood Smith is there, everybody's there, and Dottie goes off to gets her sample, but is caught, surprisingly, by, and we do see that, she checks to see what it is she got. She says, oh, they wanted her blood. Why do they want her blood? But we see that she's very excited to have it. And it is, Kurtwood Smith finds her, and, she beats up Kurtwood. Wait, was that Kurtwood's guards, or was that just hired muscle at the the club.
I believe they were Kurtwood's guard. But first she goes in and hides in the closet and sees what Whitney's really capable of.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And that moment, I was a little remiss because it's the first time we get to see Dottie with a shred of doubt in her being. And they didn't show it to us. She was constantly behind the door. They could have given us an inside shot. I was just begging for a shot to see that character finally break down, to say, "Oh my God, I'm not the one in control. I could be. What did I do?" To see like the terror dance on her face, to say, "Oh my God, this is what I almost was up against in that bathroom, that I confronted with such confidence and arrogance that I had no idea if she wanted to, she could have snapped me like a twig." I wanted to see that moment on her face, and they didn't give it to me. I was a little upset by that.
I can understand that. I think they do give us something of that. I think that
towards the very end, but
yeah, I get what you're saying, but I also think that it's one of these things where if they gave us too much, it would get to be too much. And so I think they made the choice to, show us what she's saying, let us put ourselves in her mind, and then at the very end they give us that acknowledgement that she is terrified. She knows what the danger is here, because, and for those who are following along at home, what happens is she does her little rat experiment in front of the council, which is a cheap parlor trick.
Right.
And the council is immediately unimpressed, and then...
Right. And she never does a good job of explaining the dynamic behind it and why it could be beneficial to them. She just says, "Oh, I can make a rat disappear," It seemed a little short-sighted on her part.
She's not good at presentation.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's true. She is a scientist at heart. She's not a presenter.
Yes. Well, she probably, when she's an actress, but, people write those
Jesus,
words.
What am I saying? She is an actress. Absolutely, you're right.
Yeah, but other people write those words. She's not a writer,
That's fair, too.
So you give her a script, she can memorize it, she can say the lines, she can do it perfectly, but, actually write the words, that's a whole other bag of hamburger, And she was nervous and et cetera, et cetera. But when they come and they put the dog collars on her and they're holding her at and this is actually where I think it's, because of course we do see the emotional tie to this power. And here, as she's being restrained, and this is the first time we see where she's not even touching them, and just the tendrils come out and go up the dog collars.
Yeah.
And sucks them both in.
Now, I wonder if that was something she didn't even know she could do. Remember, like, when the rat first bit her, and the defensive nature of the creature or the entity inside of her attacked on instinct. And maybe that was it here, too, that she wasn't even aware that she could do this. And all of a sudden, when push came to shove, she discovered a new power that she had.
Yeah, I think that's very much a case here where because we then almost immediately see her do the same thing with the council, where it's not even touching them, it's at a distance, and half the council's gone. And that I think is just actually because first she does take out her husband
she takes out the council first. And then goes for her husband. Yeah, and then she turns her attention back to the remaining members.
Yes.
But man, that scene where she turns around and is just so heartbroken is just wonderful. And as she sucks him up, a single tear rolls down her face. It was just, I thought, a beautiful, beautiful scene.
Because she really thought maybe he did care for her.
Yeah.
And, it's got to be hard just to have the reality of the situation hammered down on her, That's always the hard part, is when you get to it and go, oh, this was just another lie. Anyway, but in that moment, we do have the council being like, yep, Hugh Jones is like, happy to be on the team. Can't wait to see where this new leadership takes us. And then Hugh Jones is seen with Kurtwood Smith, where he's like, what, a woman in charge? He's like, trust me, this is the good way to hear this news.
Yeah. You know what? Now that I come to think about it, sort of almost lack of care that she put into her presentation at the onset, and then you relate that back to how effectively she sells her vision to the remaining council members at the end, saying it's about power, or rather that I am going to give you unlimited power as long as you remain loyal to me. It seems like and she is incredibly smart. So what if she didn't exactly buy Chadwick's little ruse and wanted to see, what happens? And then when he turned, then she had like the actual narrative that she wanted them to hear in her back pocket. Maybe a far-fetched theory.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the emotions are real that we see in this scene. I think that, real. I mean, it's a fictional scene about a woman with Cthulhu powers, but it's. I do think from the character's perspective that she was nervous going in. She's really trying to impress them to be on the team, and then she realizes after she's been betrayed that why do I even want to be on a team? I am the team. And really, it's just a question of who here is going to be working for me. And that's what it comes down to. And, and again, for a guy like Hugh Jones, it's like, yep, I don't run the council. I know what side my bread is buttered on. I got to be a member of the council. And quite frankly, I don't want to be the target. I don't want to be the guy at the top of the field who gets targeted. I don't want to be the guy who Whitney Frost thinks, oh, he's never going to bow to my whim. So I want to be the guy who they know, yeah, we can work with him. He's someone we can work with, and that is Ray Wise in a nutshell. As far as characters that he tends to play, very evil, but also very easy to work with.
A pragmatist, an evil pragmatist, but a pragmatist.
Exactly. Well, you can't do evil if no one wants to work with you.
Right. And
you're only as good as your worst henchman. That is the most important rule in supervillainy. Anyway, we do get a nice, we do get Dottie beating up the thugs. We get a really powerful scene. So actually, first off, Jarvis recovers the vial. Dottie gets taken out by Thompson because as she's beating up the other guys, Thompson gets the drop on her and has the gun at the back of her head. And when she goes to disarm him, he has essentially knows she's going to disarm him. So he's waiting for that so that he can punch her out as she's going for the gun, because now she's moving towards him to get the gun, and it's actually a pretty smart move when you think about it, basically making her step into his punch. And that's how he one punches her, which is pretty impressive.
I thought he hit her with the butt of the gun. The last shot it sounded like he hit her with the butt of the gun.
Oh, well, maybe he did that too. I know there's a thing. Yeah, I think she goes for the gun, and then he uses that to basically use her own momentum against her, and then maybe he brings the gun down over her head. But anyway, knocks her out, which is good, and then is
right. Oh, because I kept thinking, how did Whitney get in possession of Dottie? And again, but she's the boss of everything now, so yeah. Right.
Because Kurtwood's on it. And
so now if he was the one that subdued Dottie, and somehow Whitney gets possession of Dottie's unconscious body, that means her and Thompson have already had an interaction. So what comes as news to Kurtwood might not be news to Jack. Yeah?
Well, what it is no, I think that
he's relented control to Whitney, allowing her to take control of
or he just turned her back over to Kurtwood, and Kurtwood turned her over to Whitney.
Right, but Kurtwood hasn't been told about Whitney until this moment where they're talking, and that Jack has already beat her up.
Yeah, but she's in custody. But again, it's because Kurtwood was the one who originally took custody of her, so she's going back to Kurtwood's custody.
Ah, I see.
Vernon Jordan, that's his name. Vernon Jordan.
Gosh.
Vernon Jordan. is Kurtwood Smith's character's name in this. Anyway, but you get the whole scene at the end of this, where yes, he's captured Whitney Frost, but then basically, Kurtwood has to explain to him, this female agent broke her out, and it's pretty clear that this is Agent Carter, and she's making a fool of you, and and basically just, you have got to take control of this. And, basically says, I've never doubted my instincts, but you're making me doubt all of my instincts about you as to whether or not you really are cut out for command. And then even when he gets to realize, oh, she's got something on you, doesn't she? Which is, in and of itself, it's like, oh man, Kurtwood can just see right through him. Knows there's something there.
You know what that scene reminded me of? The same way that Sousa's wife, or to-be, or ex-to-be, says to him, "You're in love with her, aren't you?" And he doesn't have a response. And it's that same sort of looking down, ashamed sort of look that Jack Thompson had in his eyes when he says, "She's got something on you, doesn't she?" Yeah. And it's like, oh, man. Okay. And he's almost like glad it's out.
Yeah. And so basically what we get then is, we have Jarvis and Peggy and Sousa return to stately Stark Manor. Wilkes is so happy to have the sample, and he's like, okay, and now let's build my thing and let's do this thing. And they're like, yeah, unfortunately, we've got to figure out what happened to Dottie. That we can't worry about saving your life right now because Dottie is our priority. Because she is so dangerous. And then, of course, Thompson comes in, and so she has to confront Thompson, and they have an interaction where she basically says, "Go ahead and fire me," and he's trying to say, "No, you don't understand. The people that you're crossing, they're very powerful." And it's like, if I cared about crossing powerful people, I would not be in this business, That's the thing. Is like he thinks he's being nice to her, saying, "Look, I can protect you. I can take care of this." And she's like, "No, there's something that's wrong that needs to be righted." And it doesn't matter if I'd rather die on my knees or I'd rather die standing up than live on my knees, as it were. And I do think that is the dichotomy that we have here, and certainly, what Thompson's dynamic is in this too, because he's definitely living on his knees, that he's not getting the chance to be the person who does right, and then we get our final scene where we do see, Dottie is locked up, and at first we think, oh, because we don't see who opens the trunk that she's currently stashed in, but then we see that it's Whitney who has her. So that is our big twist. What does Whitney want with Dottie Underwood?
She could have just ate her up if but she sees something in her that maybe she thinks could be useful, either as leverage because she doesn't know why she was there aiding Agent Carter. So maybe she thinks that she's in cahoots with her, which she was, but not really. But yes. Or she sees some power in her that she wants to exploit.
And she also maybe at this point knows that she is a Russian agent as well, and that could be a part of it too, because obviously I'm sure Kurtwood gave her the full dossier on this person.
Yes. So she sees inroads to another government to exploit.
Possibly she could rule the world. Alrighty.
Indeed. Wow.
Any final thoughts on tonight's episode, Mozz?
Yeah, I think the only other thing that I thought was worth mentioning is the weird effect Peggy Carter has on everybody surrounding her. Like, okay, Sousa's wife is gotten jealous, and Jarvis's wife is now beginning to question whether her husband should be associating with this person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and for what it's worth, it is just that reality that, oh my gosh, this woman drags you guys into something dangerous and horrible. And especially for Jarvis's wife, I'm sure like for her, it's like, dude, you're a butler. You're supposed to be fighting flamingos. You're not supposed to be dealing with someone having rebar jammed through them.
Or thinking, hey, look, I've seen you deal with the flamingo. What are you going out there dealing with trained professional killers for?
Yeah, exactly. There is, and it is something that is clearly meant to be worried about because, and for what it's worth, Peggy has this effect on these people.
Right.
Where she comes in and she says, we need to do this. And everyone goes, okay.
She's a born leader.
She is a born leader. She has that Captain America vibe,
Yes, indeed.
When you think about that with Captain America and the idea that Captain America, when he says, look, we got to do this, a lot of people will say, yeah, we got to do that. We trust this man implicitly,
Right. And we trust in his vision of right and wrong, perhaps even more than our own. Exactly. Or rather, we never question whether or not Captain America would do the right thing or not.
Exactly. And that is Peggy Carter.
Yeah.
All right. So that's a great place to leave it. We will start again next week with episode 7 and 8 before the penultimate episode, Take a Drink, number 9, and the final episode ever of Agent Carter that we know of. All righty then. In the meantime, you folks at home, I'm sure you're listening to these podcasts on wonderful headsets that probably either cost you too much and are great or cost you too little and are lousy. How would you like to split the difference and get fantastic headsets at a fraction of the cost for those, buy it because some rapper put his name on it, brand of headphones? Well, you can go to tweakedaudio.com, and in addition to their amazing prices already, you can use the Southgate coupon code of Southgate and get a discount on their already discounted prices. So go over there, check that out. After that, if you feel like it, go over to huntakiller.com and help Michelle Gray solve her cold case. Get that escape room delivered to your house every month and use the coupon code Southgate to get a discount on that. And finally, if none of that interests you, just go down to our show notes, find that Amazon link. It's like an Easter egg you get to hunt for. Click on it. The cookies, the magical cookies from our show will take you over to Amazon, and they'll know that we sent you, and they'll go, well, great. And anything you buy, it will cost you nothing extra, but it will help out the show because they knew we sent you there. And while you're there, check out Pod Life, the book, a book produced by Southgate Media Group, friends and alumni, and telling you what it is to be a podcaster. All right. In the meantime, Mozz, if anyone would like to talk to you about any of this, how can they find you?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzoor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzoor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me that old-fashioned email way the way Mozz and possible instead at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. Of course, follow me on the Twitters as I live tweet things whenever I feel like it. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEssser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing!
Thank you, Mozz. All right, me hearties. You've gotten through another tumultuous sea ferriage with me and Mozz here on Full Stream Ahead. Please, as you exit, look to your left, look to your right, and then turn right back around and come back with us next week as we once again travel full stream ahead. Arg.